Hi everybody, hope you had a great week. We're already on lesson 8, or week 8 I should say. We're starting to get to the final third of the course. Pretty excited that it's gone by so quickly. A few things I want to cover in this week's announcement. It's going to be a little longer than normal because I've got a lot to cover, but it will be important. First thing is you're going to be getting feedback from your last writing assignment. One thing I want you to notice is your feedback's been different each time. Your first time, I just made comments. The second time I attached your paper with revisions and edits and comments. This time what's going to happen is I'm going to provide each of you a little video feedback. I'm going to actually open up your paper and go through it and talk about just some highlights so you can see what I am seeing when I grade and edit, and then I'll attach it. And it should hopefully be about 2 to 3 minutes long. I'm hoping it won't be longer than that, but then you can kind of see what I see as I go through your papers. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the discussion boards, because sometimes when we start getting into this part of the class, some students mistake my questioning for me trying to push for an agenda or for an idea. And I want to clarify that the reason I question in the discussion boards is more to get you thinking. And so I play devil's advocate quite a bit. It's not because I disagree with what you're saying. It's not because I'm trying to push an agenda. It's because in academics, I really want you to be thinking about what the other side of the argument is saying, because if you can't think about that, then it becomes harder to defend your own claims when those counter ideas are brought up. And you'll see me do this pretty frequently over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So please do not take it personally. This is just me as a teacher trying to stretch your thinking, because I want you to understand that as you start moving into persuasive writing, the best writers who are the most persuasive think ahead of time about what other people are saying, especially those who disagree with them, and they have clear responses back for those. So please continue to understand that that's my purpose for questioning in the discussion boards. The next thing is, as you move into persuasive academic writing, you're going to be talking a lot about how to make things persuasive through your language, through your intro, through your emotion. But I also want you to understand that in persuasive writing, there are 3 big things. Your claim, which is essentially the stance you're taking, which you'll put in your thesis. The evidence you use to back up your claim, which I would argue is probably the most important part. And then the second part is closely tied. It's called a warrant. What it really means is, why does your evidence help support your claim? This is where you actually explain that evidence that you shared, why that specifically is supporting your stance or your claim. So as you begin crafting your persuasive writing, and you start thinking about the problem and your solution, right? Your solution is your claim. You're going to want to come up with evidence that supports why your solution would work. And then you're going to want to explain why that evidence proves that your solution to this problem would work. So keep that in mind. I also want to start telling you that I want this next paper to be MLA style. So I have this up here, so as you look at this video, you can pause it. This will tell you exactly how I want it to be. There's also a website on here, Purdue's online writing center, which is called the OWL, which is excellent. It has a link there. So please understand that I will be docking points on this next paper if it is not set up MLA style. I won't necessarily be focusing as much on this next paper on the in-text citations. We'll talk about those in greater detail, but know that I am going to expect the heading to be set up correctly, the header to be set up correctly, the page numbering, the font style, the spacing, all of the formatting stuff for sure needs to be locked down. And on our very, very last paper, then I'm going to focus more on the in-text citations. So this bottom half here that I'm pointing at the arrow is nice, but I'm not going to focus on as much on this. But I will be focusing heavily on everything up here as far as the heading, the header, the spacing, the font, the paragraph indents, all of that stuff. And again, there's a link here to the OWL at Purdue if you need help. As you work on your persuasive paper, you are going to be making a thesis, which should have your claim. It needs to have a hook. If it's persuasive, you have to have some way to draw me in, so I want to keep listening to what you're going to say. Your conclusion also needs to re-emphasize your thesis with different wording. Please do not just simply put "in conclusion" and then retype out your thesis, because that's very lazy writing. You want to say the same thing, but in different words so it sounds fresh. And if you look here, I want you to use counterclaim and provide rebuttal. This thing here about ethos, logos, pathos, don't worry about that. If it's covered in this lesson, we'll talk about it, but you don't need to worry about it as much. I'm mostly focusing on what I said before, where you need to have your claim, your evidence, and your warrant. Your claim would be in your thesis, and it has to have a hook. This is where the persuasion comes in. You got to draw me in. Your conclusion needs to be in different words, but it still restates the thesis. You need to address a counterclaim, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going to be questioning you guys in the discussion boards. When I question you, I'm bringing up a counterclaim, and I'm providing you the chance to provide a rebuttal, and that's what you would put into your essay. And like I said, down here, these three things, we'll be talking about those in greater detail later, so you don't need to worry about them as much. In closing, I want to read a little story here, and I'll go through it quickly. But somebody talked about in one of their posts the difference between questioning and doubting. And I want to emphasize that it is okay to ask questions. That's how we learn. But there is a big difference between asking questions and doubting. And so I want to read this. It says, "One of my fine missionaries who served with me when I was the mission president in Toronto came to see me some years later. I asked him, 'Elder, how can I help you?' 'President,' he said, 'I think I'm losing my testimony.' I couldn't believe it. I asked him how that could be possible. 'For the first time I have read some anti-Mormon literature,' he said. 'I have some questions, and nobody will answer them for me. I am confused, and I think I am losing my testimony.' I asked him what his questions were, and he told me. They were the standard anti-church issues, but I wanted a little time to gather material so I could provide meaningful answers. So we set up an appointment 10 days later, at which time I told him I would answer every one of his questions. As he started to leave, I stopped him. 'Elder, you've asked me several questions here today,' I said. 'Now I have one for you.' 'Yes, President?' 'How long has it been since you read from the Book of Mormon?' I asked. His eyes dropped. He looked at the floor for a while. Then he looked at me. 'It's been a long time, President,' he confessed. 'All right,' I said, 'you have given me my assignment. It's only fair that I give you yours. I want you to promise me that you will read in the Book of Mormon for at least 1 hour every day between now and our next appointment.' He agreed that he would do that. 10 days later, he returned to my office, and I was ready. I pulled out my papers to start answering his questions, but he stopped me. 'President,' he said, 'that isn't going to be necessary.' Then he explained, 'I know that the Book of Mormon is true. I know Joseph Smith is a prophet of God.' 'Well, that's great,' I said, 'but you're going to get answers to your questions anyway. I worked a long time on this, so you just sit there and listen.' And so I answered all his questions and asked, 'Elder, what have you learned from this?' And he said, 'Give the Lord equal time.' And this was from Elder Ballard. So I would just encourage us that as we continue to ask questions and to think and to ponder, that we don't forget the foundation of our testimony, which is based in Jesus Christ, which we get from reading the scriptures, especially the Book of Mormon. And I promise you that as you continue to do this, you will become critical thinkers, but the kind of critical thinkers who are founded in the testimony of our Savior Jesus Christ. Have a great week, and if you have any questions, be sure to send me an email or ask me in the discussion boards, and we will talk to you later. Bye.